The Middle East has long been defined by a history of conflict, fragile diplomacy, and power struggles where seemingly small incidents often ignite far-reaching crises. In September 2025, the region witnessed a development that shocked diplomats, analysts, and ordinary people alike when Israel launched an airstrike on Qatari territory, targeting members of Hamas's political leadership who were meeting in Doha. This was the first time Israel had ever conducted a military operation inside the borders of Qatar, a Gulf state that has been central to mediation in the long and bloody conflict between Israel and Hamas. The strike, which killed several people including the son of a senior Hamas leader and a Qatari security official, sent shockwaves across the Arab world, angered international powers, and raised pressing questions about sovereignty, diplomacy, and the future of the ongoing Gaza war. For years Qatar has served as a key mediator, hosting Hamas officials and facilitating talks that involved the United States, Egypt, and other regional actors. The small but wealthy Gulf state positioned itself as a bridge between Western powers and Islamist movements, allowing for a flow of communication even when trust was otherwise non-existent. Israel, while critical of Qatar's ties with Hamas, had generally tolerated its role as an intermediary because of its usefulness in brokering ceasefires and negotiating prisoner exchanges. That tolerance collapsed with the events of September 9, when Israeli intelligence reportedly tracked a Hamas meeting in Doha where leaders were weighing a US-backed ceasefire proposal. According to reports, Israeli jets, acting with support from Shin Bet intelligence, carried out a strike on the Latakia district of Doha around 3:46 p.m. local time. The explosions ripped through what was described as a high-level Hamas gathering. Some senior leaders survived, but others were killed along with family members and Qatari personnel assigned to guard the premises. In an instant, Qatar's capital, better known for its skyscrapers, wealth, and role as host of the 2022 World Cup, became the site of a direct act of war by Israel, raising fears that the Gaza war had spilled directly into the Gulf. Qatar immediately denounced the attack, calling it a cowardly violation of sovereignty and a grave threat to peace in the region. The country, long used to balancing its identity as a U.S. ally hosting a major American airbase while also being a platform for Islamist groups like Hamas and the Taliban, suddenly found its credibility shaken. Could Qatar continue to serve as a mediator in Gaza if it could not even protect Hamas leaders on its own soil? And how would its relations with Israel, the United States, and its Gulf neighbors be reshaped by such a brazen act? International reaction was swift and largely negative toward Israel. Russia condemned the strike as a gross violation of international law and the United Nations Charter. In the days and weeks following the Israeli strike in Doha, the political landscape of the Middle East shifted into uncharted territory. Qatar, once a confident broker known for balancing delicate relationships between the West and Islamist factions, now faced a profound challenge to its sovereignty and role on the international stage. Official statements from Doha made it clear that the leadership considered the strike an act of aggression not only against Hamas but against the state of Qatar itself. Yet Qatar also signaled caution, aware that escalating into direct confrontation with Israel would destabilize the Gulf and undermine its global standing as a pragmatic actor. Instead, it sought to leverage diplomatic forums, pushing the United Nations, the Arab League, and the Organization of Islamic Cooperation to formally condemn the attack and hold Israel accountable. These diplomatic efforts highlighted Qatar's balancing act. On one side, it needed to reassure its domestic population and regional partners that it would not tolerate violations of sovereignty. On the other, it had to avoid overstepping in ways that might provoke direct military escalation with Israel, a country with far superior military capabilities and nuclear backing. Qatar's leadership also understood the risks of being abandoned by its Western allies, particularly the United States, which operates Al Udeid Air Base and uses Qatar as a hub for its military footprint in the Middle East. This complex calculus was on full display in the careful, measured tone of Qatari leaders. They demanded accountability and justice but refrained from threats of retaliation. The United Nations Security Council convened an emergency session to debate the crisis. Russia's delegation thundered against Israel, calling the strike a gross violation of international law and an attack on the very foundation of the UN Charter. China echoed those concerns, emphasizing the dangerous precedent being set. Western states faced more awkward calculations. The United Kingdom condemned the strike and sought to distance itself from any prior knowledge, while Germany and France expressed concern about destabilization. The United States walked the finest line, acknowledging that Israel had informed Washington beforehand but insisting that the strike had not been approved or supported. For many global observers, this statement rang hollow, since U.S. influence over Israel is well established. Yet it also reflected genuine unease in Washington, where policymakers worried that the attack might unravel months of painstaking diplomacy aimed at ending the Gaza conflict. Inside Israel, the strike continued to spark controversy. Supporters of Prime Minister Netanyahu hailed it as a bold show of force, proof that Hamas leaders could not hide even in luxurious Gulf capitals. Critics, however, argued that it was reckless, isolating Israel at a moment when it needed international support. Opposition lawmakers accused Net.